What's up everyone, this is Cher talking, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're gonna make a full review for the Romancing Festival Shuzer banner that brings 3 different villains from SaGa Frontier 1. The first being Shuzer, a very strong damage dealer that deals slash and pierce for boss fights. He's a gunner, pretty unique, that can also attack multiple times, buff his own BP, his own status, and even self-heal. He should not be ignored and will be one of the best characters going forward. There is also Cindy Campbell, that is a buffer that tries to replace Itoken in boss strategies since he buffs gun damage, dexterity, and morale up. Will be a very good partner for Lian and even Shuzer. And the third character, Berva, a counter specialist with blunt damage that, well, can be used if you miss it out in other counter specialists. Let's start talking about Shuzer. There is only one style of Shuzer in the game, and he gets one in the future. We'll talk more about that later. He actually has a very good status distribution with his STR not being used, or his intelligence. Ignore these two. We have 115% dexterity, that's very good. His endurance is 88 and his will is 87. As you can see, very good numbers for a damage dealer, so he's not that fragile. His agility is 88, that's also a pretty good number. As you can see, it's pretty similar to his will as well. He kinda needs love and charisma because he self-heals, but his numbers are good and he will keep buffing those to heal better. So, strong and very defensive for a damage dealer. Now, for passive, the first one is called Usurp. When landing an attack, he has a 37% chance to heal by large effect. Large effect should be around 900 in current game, and after he buffs himself sometimes, it will be pretty big. We can say that in perfect scenarios with Matriarch and maybe Itoken, he can even hit for around 900 healing with this, but more about this later. The second passive is called Improving Spirit 1. When ending an attack, he gets 5% buff to all of his status and recovers 1 BP. This is actually an amazing skill. Remember that some characters get 5% buff to 2 different status and 1 BP. Those are the mastery buffs. This one is much better than mastery because it buffs all 8 different status and he can attack multiple times. That means that he will be able to trigger this many times. The third one is called Ambitions, and on the start of a turn for 3 times he gets a hit up large that increases his damage potential by 15% and a defense up medium that increases his resistance to damage by 10%. That means you get 45% increase in damage by turn 3 and 30% resistance to damage. I don't know if the defense up is stackable in a single slot in the damage calculation to decrease 30% or if it's minus 10, minus 10, minus 10, that will give us 27%, but it's pretty similar, and it's the same passive that we got with Shiato, and they both do pierce damage, so it's good to compare them later. Now, for skills we have Spread Shot. This is a full AoE attack that was changed in global because of the release of the latest version of Doll, doing D damage, kinda good already, and then granting morale down small on the enemy for 2 turns. The good thing is that morale down decreases damage by 15% and cannot be cleansed by normal ways. So you are always decreasing the damage by 15%, but that is not exactly his main gameplay, it's just an extra that he has access to if you need extra damage reduction. The second skill is his selling point, called Claw Beat Ejection, a 9 BP attack that uses slash and pierce, pretty unique because he's a gunner, it's an indirect attack as well, cannot be countered, and has S power with 44 mod. Well, this is the end of the S power, 45 is the start of double S, so yeah, good enough. And then he calls Claw Beat Assault, a chase attack with 3 charges. First of all, it's different than Lian. Lian charges his bullets without attacking, he just charges, and then those bullets will last for the whole fight. In this case, you get like 3 attacks that will be used starting from the next turn, and then you have to keep charging to get these attacks again. The good thing is that it stacks with itself, so if you start the fight and use Claw Beat Assault, you will have 1 extra attack over the next turn, and if you use Claw Beat Ejection again on the second turn, for example, you will get 2 stacks on the next turn. So turn 1 you have 1 hit, turn 2 you have 2 hits, and then turn 3 you have 3 hits, and so on. But you can get as max as 4 hits if you charge this many times. Well, this won't happen so easily because we start with only 10 BP, unless the fight starts with 20. You have to think well when cycling the attacks. But what's the good thing about the charge attacks with this Shuzer? First of all, every time that he attacks, he buffs all of his status by 5%, including dexterity. That means that the damage is already scaling with status buff. He will also buff his endurance and will. That means that he won't be inflicted with ailments with ease, you receive way less damage, and by buffing love and charisma, he will also have a much better healing because of Usurp, 37% chance to heal with each of his attacks. When he attacks 4 times, he has 4 chances to heal himself. And don't forget, with each hit, he also recovers 1 BP. That means that he gets a lot of BP back to keep using the same skill over and over and attacking multiple times. All of this without spending LP, like Leon. And we know that Leon is still superior, his damage output is still better, but he comes with a very big risk. He uses LP in order to charge his attacks. If there is an attack with LP damage, Leon is dead and you cannot do anything about it. So there is now a different strategy with Shuzer, dealing less damage but scaling better damage on turn 1 instead of just charging and charging, but over the passage of many turns, Leon still beats. But the good thing is that Shuzer deals pierce damage as well, something that Leon doesn't. So I made a spreadsheet in order to understand the character better with plenty of information like the turn, the skill that you are using, the main strategy, how much BP you have on start, how much BP you are spending on that turn, how much BP you are getting back, how many attacks and buffs you are performing on that turn, and how many bullets you have by the end. Well, there are 2 different ways to attack with Shuzer. The first one, you just start with Cloud Ejection right on start. Well, this one makes more sense because you'll be charging faster, you'll also be buffing faster, but you can also choose to delay your offensive by 2 turns and start using Cloud Ejection by turn 3. Because he has heat up as his max potential by turn 3, this kinda makes sense, right? But since he regenerates his BP by charging, it kinda makes sense to start using as fast as possible, right? But in the end of the day, over the course of 15 turns, you still get the same number of hits, that being 39 in both strategies. There's one big difference though. He becomes stable faster by using the delayed offensive, because by turn 5 onwards, he will always be performing at least 3 attacks. With the normal offensive strategy, you will only be fully stable by turn 8. Since that point onwards, you'll be attacking at least 3 times. But I still prefer the first strategy because by turn 6, you are just short of 1 BP to use another Cloud Beat Ejection. And if you are bringing characters that buff BP to the party like Itoken, like Minstrel, like Cindy, like, well, Mariah, Virgil, Leonid, and all of those, you may get 1 BP to use Cloud Beat Ejection here and speed up your damage and your buffs. We can also talk about different cycles. A 10-turn cycle will allow him to attack 24 times, and that is good to compare versus Leon. He takes 4 turns to charge his attacks, and then he can attack 6 times after that, and in 10 turns he's going to attack 36 times, 50% more. But there is some difference between those 2 characters. First of all, Leon is a blunt main attacker. His anti-material shot is only blunt, so it even has a chance to debuff the endurance of the enemy to increase his damage potential even further, but he does not have such a high intelligence to make it happen all the times. But if you're bringing someone like Itoken that buffs STR, intelligence and dexterity, you are more likely to land that debuff. Most bosses will still cleanse that by the next turn with the 5 weaknesses, but in the same turn, other people can take benefit of that endurance debuff. But let's say one thing, you are using Bolt in a boss that is only weak to slash, but not blunt. The full damage from anti-material shot will be limited. So Shuzer will keep his slash and pierce with claw beat ejection, but his normal attack is blunt only. So there's this difference between the two. They still change between their attacks, but the follow-ups from Shuzer at least are always slash and pierce. This will be fixed by his future style, but we are very, very far from that. So when you're using normal attacks, you are only doing blunt damage. But Leon will always reign over blunt damage because of, you know, having a stronger opener and recharging, making him much better on long fights. When we consider 15 turns, Leon is going to attack 66 times, almost double, while Shuzer will only attack 39 times. Another difference is that the main attack from Shuzer will scale very well because of the dexterity buffs, getting closer to anti-material shot while still doing 2 types of damage, and his sub-attacks will also benefit from the status buff, around 20 to 30% more damage than the sub-attacks from Leon. But Leon attacks 6 times, right? Whereas your Shuzer will be mainly attacking 3 times. I believe that over the course of 10 turns, Shuzer will do around 15% less damage. Around, not entirely sure yet. But with the benefit of not spending LP, increasing his endurance and will to receive much less damage, and increasing dexterity to do more damage himself. Love and charisma to make his heal much better. He is stable while Leon is risky. Those are the 2 main comparisons between the 2. But since Shuzer also goes for pierce, he has no competition for pierce damage. He will do more damage than any other character like Summer Therese, Shiato, or even Dark in max potential. So he has his place in the meta because of pierce damage, whereas you can use any Leon or Shuzer for slash and they will work similarly. If that fight has 10 turns, but if it has more than 10, Leon will always win. That is an important thing to say because they both have chase mechanics and people will choose between the both. Another situation where Shuzer will do better is against the Egg when it returns because he does not sacrifice LP. The Egg has a LP damage attack, and many times people had to retreat and start again because Leon died. So there's yet another cycle we need to discuss, the one that brings morale down. Remember, morale down small decreases incoming damage by 15% by applying the debuff on targets. Bosses cannot cleanse from this, so you always have minus 15% damage if you are capable of attacking before the enemy. Because he self-buffs many times, even his agility, this is much likely to happen. The cycle where you use spread shot is interesting because he still does good damage. And remember, many times in the past we brought a Scrum Guard user only to receive less damage. Scrum Guard decreases damage by 20, morale down will decrease by 15. It's not as good, but not so far either. Well, you have to use spread shot every 2 turns because morale down only lasts for 2 turns. So you open with spread shot, then you use claw beat ejection, and then spread shot again. There is one point where you have to use an attack, and then after that it's just spread shot and claw beat ejection every 2 turns. That makes an attack between 2 hits and 3 hits when he gets stable. The damage will be much lower. We are going from 39 hits to 31. I believe we were losing like 30% at least. We'll also be buffing less. That means he's sacrificing his offensive to bring utility to the party. Do you really need to use this cycle? No, it's just if you really need an extra support to resist damage. Well, with all that said, I guess we can go back to the character. Shuzer is a fantastic character. Remember that every time he attacks, he buffs all of his status by 5%. His endurance and will reach 120 just by himself after some turns. His dexterity will scale to increase his damage potential, and buffing love and charisma will make his heal much better too. Just by himself, he will be able to heal around 1.2k after he stacks some buffs, and if you are bringing Matriarch together and Pain of Peace after 4 turns, he is going to heal for at least 1 point K with 1. Remember that every hit he has a 37% chance to heal, meaning that most of the time he'll be healing himself to get back to full HP. Very, very stable. And because of his kit, he covers 2 different elements. If you don't have Leon, you should summon for Shuzer, because even when you get Leon, he still has his meta for pierce damage. With all that said, let's go to the last attack called Sadistic Cannon. It's a 10 BP full AoE attack that deals blunt damage, and it's even critical to humans and mech, and can use it for farming. It's pretty strong, although he doesn't have so much damage by turn 1. You can follow up with Spread Shot and keep the full AoE cycle for blunt damage. So for farming to actually help him always be on full status. Now, besides AoE, his single target potential for farming is not that great, because Cloud Ejection only adds the chase for the next turn. We usually want to farm and kill enemies on the same turn to save time, so you can bring him on raids, but there's a problem there as well, because after Cloud Ejection he's gonna get locked in Spread Shot for most time, and we sometimes just want to deal damage and die fast on raids. Shuzer will just make it harder to die. So there's that. When we compare his potential to someone like Leon, Leon is better on farming. He can go for single target with anti-material shot and he's a Wind Chaser. And for AoE, we have another option with Ricochet Parade on turn 1. Even though this has B power, should do very similar damage to Shuzer, because he has 40% damage increase when attacking with targets, plus 10% from full prep. So if you have more than one wave, you can just inherit random shot and attack 3 times in a row. With the Remembrance Gun, the damage is pretty high, as it should be with Shuzer, but Leon has more versatility and is the better character for farming overall. So Shuzer is an awesome unit, like I said. Well, Shuzer is the only one of the 3 characters that has a future style. It was released 6 months after the original release, and it comes with a very nice inheritance, this attack called Wall Claw Bit, that is a full AoE with Slash and Pierce for 0 BP. So this replaces the normal attack so that he never uses blunt damage again. And by being full AoE, it's actually pretty nice. Besides this attack, the other 2 ones are just bad or, well, useless in the long run. And his passives are also pretty messed up, so we are waiting for some heavy global buffs to make him good. The next character is Cindy Campbell, and she is a gunner with access to shadow spells, and is also a hybrid unit because of that. And it kinda hurts her status distribution, much like Doll, another gunner that has access to shadow spells. As you can see, she needed 100% dexterity for gun skills, she needed 108% intelligence for shadow spells, and she needs 95 agility for accuracy on the shadow spells, and to go first, because she's also a debuffer, while also offering plenty of parts utility. Because of being hybrid, she has very poor endurance with only 55, her will is much better on 78, but nothing spectacular. None of her status are top when you think about the values. When we compare this to Doll, it's pretty much the same. You see, she even has the same endurance, so kind of something that happens with both units. Now, for passives, we have Transmission 3, that gives her a 25% chance on the start of a turn to buff all surviving allies dexterity and intelligence by 20%. The value is good, 20%, but it's only 25% of the time. But since it's true status, it's nice. But how many times do you really want dexterity and intelligence together? Well, it will help someone like Leon, because he will have higher intelligence to debuff with anti-material shot. Will also help someone like the debuff version of Monica, because she needs dexterity for damage and higher intelligence to debuff, and any other debuffer that relies on dexterity for his main attack. Then the second one is called Cure Favor. On the end of a turn, she has a 25% chance to recover all surviving allies' HP by a very small effect, that should be around 160 on the current game, and also gives 1 BP to the party. 25% chance to heal, we had many characters. Now with the added plus 1 BP, It's actually nice. It will help fix some damage dealers like Shuzer, like I said, and people that still use Mirza or still play light Shuzers that have 10 DP cycles. But it's not reliable. It's kind of like Itoken. It happens, and when it happens, it's nice. Then the last passive is called Enhancing Heal 2 Dexterity. On the start of a turn this time, she has a 25% chance to buff Dexterity to all survive allies by 10% and also recover HP by around 160. So yeah, she has two passives that can heal the party. Both have 25% chance to trigger. One is on the start, the other one is on the end. Itoken has 37% chance to heal, only with one passive, so Cindy beats him in those two things, at least, right? We can even go to check Itoken, because Cindy wants to replace Itoken. As you can see, 25% chance to heal BP and 37% chance to recover HP. She beats him on this, but she does not have the very important passive that Itoken has access to, that is Iron Wall Defense 6, decreasing damage by 40% at all times. This means that Itoken is pretty sustainable and won't need to be healed himself most of the time, only when he gets nuked, while Cindy becomes a very squishy character in fights, especially if she's going to be hit by physical attacks. You will need to think carefully on the party that you are using and place Cindy on a position where she can decrease damage by formation, for example. Tiger's Den will help her and the new formation Whirlwind as well, but you need to place her in one of these lots that decreases damage. Also, we have two passives that can increase dexterity. That means that she wants to be used in very offensive setups. And she will, because she is made as a perfect partner for Lian, Shuzer, all gunners, and even some bow users and rapier users too, because of the skill called Weapon Box that has a 5 VP cost, it's fast, and will buff Secret Technique for gun users. This increases damage by 25%, just like Morale Up Medium, and will not stack, but lasts for 2 turns. After that, we have a Morale Up Medium, increasing another 25% in damage. Besides that, we also have a Dexterity buff that goes from 15% on level 1 or 25% on max level, but you will need to manually level this up. So we have 25 plus 25 increasing damage and a Dexterity buff that can reach 25%. Another good point about Weapon Box is that when you check that it buffs Morale Up by 25% and also Secret Technique Gun by 25%, you are getting 50% on total, right? That is the same value as you get with Flamenco Muse, but exclusive to gunners. But even then, if you don't have a gunner but have a character that uses a dexterity buff, you are getting 25% dexterity there. That actually has similar value. We are still using this skill for only 5 VP when compared to Barbara's Flamenco Muse that uses 11. This is power creep for you. So the Weapon Box only costs 5 VP. This is amazing. But you don't actually need to use Weapon Box every 2 turns, because Secret Technique and Morale Up on stack, only the Dexterity buff stacks. And we kinda sometimes use Itoken only for the Dexterity buff, right? When we are using him alongside Lian. We do get utility from the Love buff as well, but just to reinforce that even if you only want the Dexterity buff, you can still use Cindy like Itoken, pretty much the same, and if she triggers her BP passive, she can use it more often. And if you are using her with Lian, you can even skip the first 2 turns if you want, so that you stack BP and then use Weapon Box many times in a row. You can just use it every 2 turns if you want as well, because, well, Cindy may need to heal. She doesn't have any damage reduction passive, but she has access to Power Grab, another 5 EP skill that, when hits, will recover the user HP by around 700 and decrease the STR from the enemy by 15%. This skill has a guarantee to the buff, but it needs to land, and she will rely on her agility and intelligence to get a big accuracy in order to land. In very hard challenges she may miss on turn 1. I don't know why, but Power Grab seems to have a low accuracy from my tests, but Cindy does have a higher agility and intelligence than my first version of doll that was always missing. So, either weapon box many times in a row, or weapon box once and Power Grab when you need to heal. Besides, she has Spider Despair, an APP full AoE attack with shadow damage and B power only, but when the attack lands, there is a chance to decrease the enemy's agility by 30%. That is very high, the highest value you can get for an agility debuff. You should not care much about the damage. She's not a damage dealer, but if you are fighting against a boss that has access to many martial arts attack, you will decrease the damage and the accuracy. And if you want to use this against enemies that use spells, you'll be decreasing their accuracy too. So it has utility, although I must say that weapon box is her selling point. And, well, let's say that you want to increase the damage of Leon. She will outclass Itoken easily. Why? Because, you know, Secret Technique Gun, it's 25% increasing damage. Morale up, 25% increasing damage. Things that you won't find on Itoken. But you will need to place her on a defensive formation so that she does not die. You can still bring both together if you want. They even work well, but you have less space to bring other support units. You can also use weapon box for other characters that are not gun users, because let's say you want to bring someone like Darke, or someone like Summer Therese, Seattle, characters that are very strong and rely on dexterity buffs to get stronger. You can, because you still have the 25% from the morale up alongside the dexterity buff. So still get utility from this if your whole party is based on dexterity damage. I must say that she still is not as good as Itoken in the end, because Itoken has other things going for him. Like, he has Hero's War Song that can heal and cleanse, so if you need a desperate cleanse, he will help you. And he also works for other types of squads, STR based squads and intelligence based squads, so he's much more versatile and works everywhere, where Cindy is very good for gunners, still good enough for dexterity based units, but stops there. It's what she does. And she will even buff dexterity with her passive sometimes. So, a very nice character, and if you want to bring a speed up strategy with Leon and Shuzer, Cindy will increase their damage potential by a lot. Imagine if you can still bring Itoken and Matriarch together. It can even work. I don't know if it will be easy to use this type of strategy because we don't have any full healer. But remember that Matriarch has 2 casts of her shield with heal, right? And if the fight ends in 7 turns, well, it can work, but you need to use a defensive strategy. So Cindy has a place in the meta by being a very unique buffer. Not as good as Itoken. I still think she's not as interesting as Gianna, that is more utility for bossing, because we still need to bring will buffs. They are much more important than dexterity buffs, for example. And we also have other buffer like Nawal's Daughter that covers all elements and even gives defense enhancement, and she's still superior to Cindy. But she is very close to them in support, and we receive a SS plus grade in our tier list. And one important thing, Cindy has no future style, so she's what you see now. This may change in the future, but so far, it's that. And the last one is Berva, and he's a martial artist with a focus on STR and agility for damage, but also endurance. He takes low damage from physical. His will is also not that bad, only 8%. He has very bad dexterity and intelligence because he does not use those 2 things, and love and charisma are on the lows because he's not focused on healing. For passives, we have Strengthened Attack 2, damage increases by 15%, and on the start of battle, he will recover 2 BP. The second one, called Giant's Combat, increases counter-attack damage by 30%, and when he's attacked, he will increase his OD gauge by 15 points. That means that he actually builds 25 OD points when he gets hit. We need 100 in order to get to overdrive. If the enemy is attacking him too much, he's going to get to OD in 1 or 2 turns, for example. When he attacks, he also gets different values for OD based on the attacks, so he actually builds that very fast, because he has another mechanic called Berva's Revenge. He will nullify all blunt damage when he's on overdrive, and if he gets attacked, he will counter with Berva Uppercut, a triple S attack that deals blunt damage and will only be used on rank 1. It's kinda similar to double S attacks on max potential. It's nice because he negates blunt, but how many times do you need this? And negate blunt, counter with blunt. I don't know how important that is. And then he has Fired Up 6, increasing damage by 30% at all times. So he has 45, starts with 12, gets to 75 when counter, and will be able to counter when he gets to overdrive. That's his main gameplay, besides the OD gauge thing. Now, for skills we have Sobat Plus, a 1 DP attack with C power that just deals blunt damage. Nothing special, just good enough for being only 1 BP coast, but he has access to only 3 BP per turn, that is not so good. Then we have 1-2 combo. This is a power attack that opens a defensive counter stance that lasts for 1 turn, and if he gets attacked, he's going to take full damage. Yes, it's a counter. Have you seen that he does not have any damage reduction passive? That's true, he only relies on his big endurance to reduce damage, and this may not be enough. And when he enters the defensive counter stance, taking full damage, he will counter with Power Bomb, an S power attack that deals blunt damage. At least this one can rank up and reach 99 with the same level as 1-2 combo. I think this is good. Yeah, surely, I now will explain why. We do have 2 other counter units that are much better and we still barely use them. I have Boston, and I used him like 3 times. Boston has Pincer Time, a 7 BP 8 power attack that he enters a defensive counter stance too, but he buffs his endurance with each hit and attacks 3 times the buffing STR. It's much more value. Another counter specialist is Seki Sushai that has the same way to get OD by being hit, but he also buffs endurance and will. Much better, right? And he covers Slash and Lightning, but I can tell you that he will do so much damage that he can use it on neutral as well. When he opens OG, he will use Jolting Slash, a triple S attack, and his counter mechanic is an evasive one that will counter with a power that can also debuff STR. And when he counters with Disarm, if you are on OD, every counter will also trigger Jolting Slash. That makes him super strong when you can use counter strategies. They are much superior characters to Berva, that does not have any way to decrease damage. Has to rely on overdrive to use his better potential. Something I don't know is if he counters 2 times or not when on overdrive. I'm not entirely sure about that. I do believe yes, but I tested double counters in the past and they didn't work. So if someone knows, I will post in the comment section. Besides 1-2 combo, he has Knockout Plus, a very strong full AoE attack with blunt damage. With 12 BP coast, it means that he can use on turn 1 because of 12 BP. It will be able to clear waves because of such a high power. It's almost double S power because 44 is 1 point before double S. But after that, he doesn't have any follow-up, so you only clear 1 wave and there's that, nothing else. Berva does not have any future style as well. All that you see is what you have. You can sometimes clear waves when farming, and we will be able to use counter strategies here and there with Power Bomb and his Berva Uppercut on overdrive. But he's not that offensive, he's not game changing, he's just whatever character that works for those that don't have any other counter units. I say that he will receive a SS- grade and easily be forgotten and be demoted without much time. Now back to the banner image, is this banner worth summoning for? Well, in my opinion, yes, and the reason is Shuzer and Cindy. First of all, Shuzer is an extremely powerful character with very good self-sustain capabilities and only loses to Leon in his setup. Cindy is a very good buffer that will replace Itoken in many squads where you don't need as much defense and will be able to give much more offense. Those two units are enough to make me give this banner a gold award. Yes, that's right, I can see a lot of potential on Shuzer and Cindy. While Berva is just a whatever character, you can stop once you get those two, and even if you are close for a PD, I don't recommend going for Berva. It will be easily forgotten. But Shuzer and Cindy will be seen in some strategies from me and from other players because they really shake up some of the strategies for boss fights. If you are a new player, I have to say this banner gives a lot to you because Shuzer will be used in many boss fights. But if you are a veteran and have Leon, Itoken, and another very strong pierce damage dealing like Summer Therese, like Seattle, like Dark, you can skip the banner. But Shuzer is a direct upgrade for Pierce, while Cindy brings even more damage to Leon squads. So decide if your gens are... decide if this gives you enough value for the gens that you have. With all that said, this is my opinion. What is yours? Please see here in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't, and if you want to support the channel, there are links in the description. I hope to see you soon in the next one. Bye.